And welcome back. We are with Sarah Godlewski. She is the Wisconsin State Treasurer. Sarah, the task force recently suggested 5 different proposals to address retirement. And one of the ideas from the task force is something you touched on earlier, Wisconsin Saves. It's a program designed to help 1 million Wisconsinites to gain some retirement savings. How does that program work?
Well, one of the things that came up over and over again in our listening sessions that we did across the state was small business was looking for a solution. A small business owner told us that he has around 25 employees, and he reached out to 3 different vendors to provide retirement security for his business. The first person didn't return his call. The second vendor said it's not worth his time. And then the third opportunity, he literally had to convince them to take him on as a client. And when we surveyed small businesses, ARP actually talked about this, that it's not that small businesses don't want to provide retirement security. It's oftentimes too expensive, too complicated, and too time consuming to do it. And so what can the state do? And so that's exactly what this solution is providing, is literally a plug and play system for small businesses where at no fees, they can offer this up to their employees, and literally it's a Roth IRA that follows the individual rather the a retirement plan being based with the employer. And we've seen in other states that have done similar recommendations. Oregon is an example. They've now been doing a similar program for a few years, and they have over 85,000 people that are participating in their program. And people are really happy and excited about it, and it's shrinking their retirement gap. And so that is a solution that I think not only will benefit Wisconsinites, but it will also benefit small businesses so they can provide a benefit and stay competitive, knowing that there are other states like Illinois who's offering similar opportunities, and we want to make sure Main Street can be competitive in today's environment.
Another part of your program, 401 Kids, and it is aimed at helping kids born in Wisconsin with their long-term wealth and financial education. How will that program work?
Well, Tom, I mean, I will never forget a story out of Kenosha, Wisconsin, where it was a woman in her 60s, and she attended one of our sessions right before COVID, and I asked her why she was there, and she said, I'm not here for myself, I'm actually here for my kids. I have 3 kids in their 30s, and not one has started to save for retirement, and it's not because they don't want to, it's just the barriers that have not allowed them to save. And in looking at this, I mean, one of the best benefits when we look at the private sector is our ability to leverage compound interest. And so what 401 Kids is doing is opening up an account for every kid in the state of Wisconsin so they can benefit from not just the 1 or 2% interest rate returns, but more the 9% interest rate returns that we're getting from retirement security. So if you think about it, if we would open up an account for a kid in the state of Wisconsin the day that they are born, and we put $500, we seeded that account, and we did nothing until they retired when they were 65, the account would be worth over $40,000. That's a game changer for many families. And so it's that kind of thought process where we are leveraging compound interest and being creative that is at the genesis of what 401 Kids is all about.
It's hard to explain to the younger generation exactly how important it is to start investing right now. Those of us close to retirement, we know the answers to that question and how important it is. What kind of an impact will this have on kids, giving them this kind of financial literacy from the very start?
Well, something that we heard from in talking with educators is that financial literacy is really important, but one of the challenges is they don't have the tools to make it experiential. Like everything that they talk about is very conceptual. And one of the benefits with 401 Kids is it would actually be providing that tool to talk about savings, to talk about compound interest, to talk about when you put your money away, what you can use it later on. And so that is something that we're excited about, is actually giving kids a tool to learn more about financial education and putting those principles into practice.
All right, something else you mentioned earlier, the new emergency savings structure built into the proposal. How does that benefit Wisconsinites?
So what the emergency savings recommendation is there's 2 parts of it. The first is the overall feature is that when you are putting your money away, let's say $1. 25 cents would go to an emergency account, and then the 75 cents would go to your retirement account. And once your emergency account hits, let's say $1,000, then all of your money that you're putting in would go to your retirement account. And then you can pull out of your emergency savings account without impacting the principal of your retirement account. So it would be a built-in feature that as a user, you wouldn't have to worry about managing two different accounts. They would be mirrored together, but you wouldn't have the impact from pulling your money out early, because something that is not only a concern with regards to taking away the principal, but also you get fined. I mean, there are fines when you take your money out early, and that comes at a cost. And so this is helping people not only protect the money that they have saved, which we call leakage, but also making sure that they avoid costly fines and fees from taking money out early.
So savings and retirement, they are two separate plans. When people are building up their funds for a rainy day like this, what's a good target goal for them? I mean, how much should be in that fund? And I suppose it depends upon how old you are.
Yeah, I mean, what the experts will tell you is you should have savings that are equal to how much you make per month for 3 months is what you should be, your kind of goal in overall savings. When we talk about emergencies, when we're looking at, your car breaks down and you need to fix your tires, or a water leakage, the goal is always to have at least $1,000 saved for a kind of an unexpected emergency. So there are different ideas and amounts, I think, based on what you are looking at, which is why for our emergency savings feature that we have built into these recommendations, we don't necessarily put a specific amount, but that's something that I think the individual can decide for themselves.
Your task force is also looking to incentivize participation in these retirement plans. Why is that?
Well, something that was really important to the task force, and actually my hat goes off to Representative Mako, who chaired the tax incentive committee, was thinking about how can we build off the current system. And something that actually was true to my own retirement story is that when I joined my company in my 20s, I did not know that I needed to sign up for a retirement plan. There's so much going on when you're onboarding. And when I turned 30, I was like, I need to start saving. And come to find out, my company actually automatically enrolled me without me even knowing about it. And that's at the genesis of what these incentives are aiming towards, is rather than right now, you actually have to sign up for retirement, incentivizing companies to automatically enroll their employees, but you still have the choice to opt out if you don't want to save for retirement. So that's looking at a different incentive structure to encourage employers, rather putting it with one of the many things they have to fill out when you have new hires, just saying, look, we're going to automatically enroll you, but you're welcome to opt out if that's not something that you want to participate in.
And what is the benefit of using auto enrollment for these programs?
So what we have seen, and this has been studied across the state, is people are more likely to participate when they automatically enroll. Something like more than 90% of people will enroll or continue to start saving for retirement if they're automatically put into a retirement plan. And so rather than maybe like 50%, I'm trying to remember, Tom, exactly what the numbers are, but you have a much higher rate of participation when you automatically enroll, setting people up for long-term savings success.
You've got something called the Interactive E-Commerce Portal. What is that? How does it help people?
Something that we were hearing from, whether it was individuals, Wisconsinites, or from small businesses, is that our retirement system, and quite frankly, our financial system, is very complicated. And so how can we have a one-stop shop where, as that business owner I mentioned earlier, Tom, could just go to one place to find out who's offering retirement, what are they looking for, so he can choose from a variety of vendors. Or folks are trying to figure out, how do I best maybe invest my plan? And so what the portal is this one-stop shop of information where, whether you are a small business looking at providing retirement, or you're a Wisconsinite trying to figure out how to navigate it, you can have all that financial information in one place to make it easy for you to participate.
We continue with Wisconsin State Treasurer Sarah Godlewski right after this. Please stay with us.